love that.
And
oh
it's
my
so
God.
true, though.
Well, okay. I had the most wild. I've been touring with this company called Flight of Voices. They're incredible. I love that community. It's a bunch of artists that all come together and play shows similar to like So Far Sounds, but it's everybody playing on everybody's songs, and we go song, 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 song,
Dude,
song.
Yes.
Community. It's beautiful. Part of that experience, we were out in Joshua Tree, and it was this really cool show. We were actually floating on a lake playing for the people on the shore, and I could do this. Like silence, absolute silence. Okay, and they had this sound healing session at like really early morning. Okay, and I had the chance to talk to this woman. I forget her name. She was such a sweetheart, and she was explaining how the way that sound healing works is people own stress in different densities. She called it, and the way that sound releases those densities is it matches the vibration. So what music does, like on those live speakers, based on what she has told me and like how I've kind of synthesized healing through music, it's releasing the densities and the energies that are pent up in people and pent up in their muscles.
It's like matching that tension, basically.
Exactly. And that's why it's such a musical, like an emotional release when people go to concerts, because they're actually releasing those things that are like, when they say that there's a weight that's taken off their shoulders. It literally is. Like that's an actual thing that happens when you listen to music on a big speaker. I
love this. This is so much what I
Yeah.
like to promote, like talk about. I mean, because it's true. I mean, people used to have. I mean, the only choice they had was to get these tower speakers in their house, right? To listen to music, and I don't think we realized what we actually had until we took it away.
It's so important.
Go invest in some big speakers in your house, and it's like make a listening room. Put on your favorite song. People always talk about, metal music is my favorite example because I'm a total metalhead.
Love it.
I love all music, but I love metal. I got a Metallica cup right here.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But I've been asked a question like, or I've been told it's too angry, it's too much. I'm like, well, very much like every other kind of music on what you're saying. People that feel this tension, that feels like anger, that feels like rage, they begin to stay calm because they listen to music that's very aggressive and very, raging, and it literally strings that chord, it hits that chord, right? It strums that feeling, and it matches our level. So all of a sudden, we don't want to do anything crazy. It's like, I feel relieved. The same way when we're sad, we listen to a song that hits that sad note in ourselves.
It pulls it out of us. It brings that away.
It doesn't enhance, because people say like, wouldn't it make you angry? Wouldn't it make you sadder to listen to sad songs? I'm like, no, it literally takes on the burden for you. That's why music is so great.
I think we just like blew my mind really quick. I've never thought about it this way, but I never made that. I made that connection. I'm having sort of a moment right now. This is wild.
Take the moment. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
People need to listen to music on big ass speakers. Yes, that is
Bigger
it.
speakers. I had a listening party for the new Tool album.
Oh, really?
And the reason I did it is because, well, one, Tool is like one of my favorite bands of all time.
Sure.
13 years since they released the album, and I have a lot of friends that like them.
Okay.
And they released the single about 2-3 weeks before they released the album. I listened to the single in the studio, and then I listened to it in my headphones, and I was like, this will not do. So I invited everyone the day the album was released to come over and sit in front of my studio speakers and blast it, because the difference is literally it changes people.
It does.
It rewires your freaking existence.
Absolutely. Yes, man.
Anyway, we went there.
We're there, man. This is already A1 content.
So anybody listening, welcome to the Studio Corner podcast. I have Nico Franc with me.
Oh, hi guys. How we doing?
One of the most talented musicians I've ever had the pleasure of seeing play.
Thank you.
I kind of want to talk about that for a second. Before we dive in, because I have a lot of questions for you. Like I totally want to pick your brain.
Please.
Sun Sesh LA. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. Oh my God, yeah.
I want to know how you heard about it and how you got involved before I tell you how I got involved in this beautiful meeting here.
Right. Yeah. So Sun Sesh I moved out to LA in 2015, late 2015, and it was early 2016 when I was invited out to Sun Sesh. Now, it wasn't Sun Sesh at this point. It was a jam session that happened. I called it the Mansion Jam because, I mean, for people who don't know on the podcast, this
Very exclusive.
Yeah.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot his name, but he's a billionaire.
Scott Adler. Yeah, he's a sweetheart. And
I guess he
who
funds
loves-
Hollywood, basically.
Right. He legitimately funds Hollywood. And what's so special about him is his daughter was really into performing arts. And because of that interest there, and because of his love, I mean, I think her love probably was built from his love for
Yeah.
it. So he created this stage down in what would be a basement of a house, but it's really not. You can't call it a basement.
It's a
'cause
venue.
It's a venue.
It's literally the size of a fucking venue.
And has like the better sound system, and it's like it's the most beautiful, absurd place to be.
It's like take the stage at the Roxy, put the baked potatoes sound system in there, and then put Lazy Boy chairs with carpets as the like floor.
Exactly. Like I could fall asleep on the ground.
Yeah.
The ground is comfortable. I think I have at some point. Yeah, that sounds familiar. No, I have. I super have. We were watching a movie after one of the jams. I helped clean up, and I actually fell asleep on the ground.
I don't blame you.
Right.
It's the coziest room I've ever been to.
It's fantastic.
It felt very Secret Society though, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it was so cool, man. Oh,
Because you walked in, you went down this dark driveway of this like hidden house and like, you know, this mansion, right?
Right.
You walk down these steps into like the third building. You walk in, you walk down these hallways, and you enter this like lobby, which is like this giant tall room with this beautiful bar and this beautiful art. And then you open these doors, and then there's like a venue. I was like, where am I right now? Where's
Wonderland.
fucking like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby? Like, what the fuck?
like the Rat Pack. It is
It was
exactly
yeah,
that.
It was like just what a wild experience. Anyway, please tell me. Please continue.
Well, so that. Meanwhile, I was this, I wouldn't say sheltered. That's not the best way to put it. But I want to paint the picture of like exactly where I was at when I first experienced this.
Hell yeah.
Because this was one of the most hysterical rooms I've been in, coming from Savannah, Georgia, having like no experience in the music industry other than bars and like a minuscule amount of touring on the East Coast. And going, like, this is LA. I'm in the most ridiculous room ever with some of the most unbelievable players. Like, I have Colin Wolfe, who just, if you guys don't know Colin Wolfe, unbelievable bassist, beat maker, producer, whatever you want to. I mean, he's just a genius, and he's playing bass. I get up, I'm like, oh, I know who that is. Oh, my God. That's crazy. And then Scott Page gets up, saxophonist, who's played with everybody under the sun.
He did Pink Floyd's he did Dark Side of the Moon. He did something else.
What was it? River? The
Ending River or something like that.
I think
one of the
that was
newer
him.
album or whatever it was. I was there that night. That was the night I looked and I was like, holy shit, we got to jam with him.
We got to jam with him.
jam with this.
Yeah, dude.
And he ripped.
Oh my God, and what's crazy, it wasn't Sunsesh at that point. It was a group of guys who just got together and hung out, and Sammy and Evan were sort of the coordinators of everybody kind of doing. And Maddie, I don't know if you never met. Did you ever meet Maddie?
You know, I barely like got to know anyone there. I went to two of them because literally an old client of my parents that knew one of my parents' old employees that was a family friend. He was in town. They got in contact, and then he was like, "Hey, I'm going to this thing in LA," and I showed up as like a fourth of a fifth of a guest kind of thing.
Right.
And then they told me to bring my guitar. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah.
I was so not a part. I was like, where am I right now? Very much the same thing. You were like, what is going on?
Exactly, dude. It was a beautiful thing, and it was happening every Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think I felt just like you, like sort of fish out of water going, I don't know anybody here. I was invited by a friend who they soon after stopped coming because I think it got a little oversaturated, and that's when the planned performances started happening.
So I saw you do a performance there of your own music. Now, was that just kind of like, hey, do you want to play? Or did they plan, like, they book you as, like, an artist?
Yeah, so from where Sunsesh started, it was all about just bringing friends together to jam out and hang out, drink a little, and do whatever.
Yeah.
Then they started incorporating live acts that were there to perform their own music. And so it became half and half. Like jam session happened after 4 or 5 acts got on and did their own thing. And then it continued to grow and it got so much recognition and buzz that they started doing every month. So it was once a month, and then now there's no jam anymore. It's just booked talent, and it is unbelievable the community that has been built from that.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so just to watch it grow and to watch it turn into what it is, I mean, I've been so happy to be a part of it. Just to watch that, man, it's
So
beautiful.
are you still going there and stuff? Are you still
Whenever I can, I try my best, man. They're such good people, and I want to show up as much as I possibly can. So, unfortunately, I haven't been in a minute, but
I went twice, and I was like, I loved it. I don't know why I stopped going. I didn't, well, because my contact just wasn't there anymore, and I was like, do I show up? I don't know how this works.
Everybody, if you know about it, you're welcome.
That's
Absolutely
amazing.
welcome to go.
I think it's incredible the fact that he did what he did.
Completely.
Built a venue and invited people like you. I mean,
Exactly.
the people that I got to discover and meet, like Christina Vane. Do you remember? She played. She was very like folky. She plays a banjo. I discovered her at Sunset LA, and I still follow her till this day on Instagram. I love her music. She's a total freaking badass. One of the most talented artists I've like seen. I'm like, how many people did I just rank? I went there once, twice, didn't talk to much people, and I'm like, I just like made an entire. I was blown away the amount of people that came out of it. So I can't imagine what they're doing now.
Oh, I love that.
Totally wild. So you got invited. How soon after moving to LA did you get invited to this though?
Oh, God. So I moved in September. I was invited in January or February of 2016. So September
you really
2015.
like immediately got the taste, like
Immediately. Yeah, it was wild. Well, it's funny how you kind of. Actually, this is a funny story, and it is exactly where I'm going with this. But I moved to LA. The Trader Joe's on Vine Street in Hollywood.
Okay.
Right? So my first time at Trader Joe's in Hollywood. First time. I am fish out of water going, I am still wearing salmon pants and Sperry's. And I'm like, what am I doing in LA? And I remember picking something. So this lady dropped something from her cart, and I grabbed it. And I was like, oh, hey, you dropped this. And she was astonished that I, one, acknowledged her existence, said hello, and picked something up of hers which, I mean, that should just be human courtesy, right?
That's natural outside of LA.
Exactly. And she's like, you're so sweet. Like, it's so nice to see somebody smiling, genuinely. And my heart's racing going, did I make a terrible decision with moving to LA? What have I done?
Well, that sums a lot of what it was up. You know?
Completely. And to just put a cherry on top of the situation, this guy who is the most stereotypical LA. Like, if anybody thinks of the caricature of California, this is that guy. Massive, like, super long blonde hair, holding a longboard. His head just, like, pops up out of the side of the aisle, and he goes, yo, your vibe determines your tribe, dude. I swear on my life this happened.
Your vibe determines your tribe.
Your vibe determines your tribe. And I broke down laughing. Like, she and I were in hysterics. I'm like, okay, no, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is great.
Wow. And what an incredible... I'm sorry, that blows my mind. You have the greatest LA welcoming ever.
Hysterical.
In a Trader Joe's. Like the fucking godsend to LA.
Exactly.
Go ahead. I love
my God. And so I'm sitting here just like, what the hell? And 2 months in, I finally... Like, that energy, I guess, that I was putting out, or that whatever if you're spiritual, whatever you want to call it, like that whatever brought me to exactly where I was supposed to be. And that was at Crave Cafe, where there was the most unbelievable open mic going on. And I was jumping open mic every night my first year with one of my buddies, Eddie. And we found ourselves at this open mic called at Crave Cafe in Studio City. And, man, the first night that I went there, I met every single one of what would soon turn into be one of my like best friends for life. Like I met Dylan Dunlap there. I met the guys that brought me to Sunsesh there. I met it was such a sparkling community. Like everybody there is doing music full time now, and that's to watch everybody sharpen each other's work and like they say, iron sharpens iron, whatever you want to use in that circumstance. That's what was happening. There was such a little scene, such a little pocket, and everybody was so curious and showing new songs. And every week, Tuesday night, 7 to 10, and then we would all hang out afterward. I mean, it was just magic. It was exactly where everyone in that community was supposed to be at the time. So
I think what I'm hearing you say is a beautiful circumstance presented itself, yes. But I think what the most, from an outsider's perspective, the most important thing I'm hearing is the fact that you walked into that and accepted it and let yourself be immersed in it. And
Hell yeah.
as musicians, especially as creative people, as artists, to walk into a situation where there are other people doing what we're doing, for you to walk in and accept people, say, hey, this is a community, it's magic, it's sparkling. Like, listen to the terms you're using. You basically like manifested this incredible experience and you built these relationships. More often than not, I'd say 99% of the time, us artists, us crazy people will walk into that and be standoffish and not want to get, it's nerve-wracking, it's scary, it's, exposing, it's vulnerable. And I think your attitude is why things have been so beautiful and like so presented to you.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
I love hearing this, especially with how talented you are. But we'll get to that. Please continue.
No, thank you. And I definitely want to speak on that because it was more, because I went on, excuse me, sorry, let me stop. My words are getting ahead of themselves. I went into the circumstance open, and I think that was the most important thing, because a lot of those people taught me how to navigate the musical circumstances that I was in, and I think that you never really recognize a good thing till it no longer exists. And that was so special, and we really didn't know what we were doing at all. And now to be on the other side of it, where that community is kind of spread out all over the world now, to look back and go, wow, that shared mentality was a result of the community, was a result of the general consensus of how we treat each other as artists, how we treat each other as musicians and friends, and what we kind of expect out of each other. Because that it wasn't necessarily expectation, but it was this co-excitement, this thing that was generated that like we all were a part of, and we were accepted and open to. And it wasn't necessarily a result of my own vibe or everybody else's. It was just how we saw each other. It was completely open. It was completely vulnerable.
Wow.
But through that vulnerability, I think we all grew together, and we all were able to build something that I think will be timeless memories and timeless friendships, and
making music in the process, which is timeless.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And hopefully the product is timeless from that. And I think that, knock on wood here, let's make something fucking timeless.
Hell yeah. I like that co-excitement though.
Yeah.
As I feel like it's very rarely described like that, if ever. Co-excitement.
About each other and being fans of one another. I think that's so special. That was so special.
It's also so rare. In LA too.
And learning that, man. Yeah.
Good for you, man. I'm so happy to hear this. I love hearing this.
Cheers.
Building those small communities, because you're right. You never know where that's going to go when you put a few people that believe in something that requires extreme depth, but they're there for each other in the deepest part of it.
Exactly.
There's no bad outcome to that. There's just no bad outcome to that. So regarding music, and I like what you're saying, because I read your little, I don't know what, like your bio, that little page you sent me. I loved it. I thought it was so professionally done. I was so jealous. I was like, this guy's got it down. But I loved the quote that whoever wrote it, they used, that you talked about, and you talked about music, what music is to you, and it's a way to celebrate yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, I think I have a somewhat of an idea of what that means to me, but I want to know what you really meant by that, because I feel like you're tapping into that right now with this story, the idea of celebrating yourself.
Oh, well done, man. I've never been asked that question before, but cheers. That's one of my favorite things to talk about.
I'm excited.
So when I was growing up, music has always been my therapy, my go-to, my release, as we talked about earlier with the whole you play a sad song and you're not sad anymore sort of thing. Now, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I think through music I discovered my own voice and discovered my own purpose, or not necessarily. Purpose sounds so God-given that I'm like, I don't know if I want to touch that word. But I think the better word is more so my own comfort within my own skin. And especially in a time where we are so wrought with social media being one of those things that does this, but so wrought with like self-deprecation or self-comparison. And I guess what I'm trying to say is music has always been that center point, that centering action. And when I partake or when I start playing music, I sort of forget and detach myself from anything else that can take me away from that moment. And what I love about it is a celebration of self, because once you detach yourself from the words and the judgments and the bullshit, really, you go, oh wait, I love myself. How have I forgotten this?
So good.
I feel so good,
Yeah.
and my voice matters. And that was a huge thing, going through what I went through. Being heard was like my greatest fear, or not being heard was my greatest fear. And I think as a result, when you start playing music and when you enter that conversation of a band or a song setting, or no part goes unnoticed and no part goes without being important. And if you're playing with the drums or you're playing with guitar or keys, each one has its own voice, and each one is so paramount to the groove and so paramount to the moment that and just like the audience is paramount to that as well, the listener, like this is all for them, this is all for us. And when everybody's acknowledged and everybody is heard, everybody can celebrate themselves and feel like they're being celebrated. And that to me is the most important thing. When I'm on stage, when I'm off stage, when I'm writing, it's like, how can we feel this? How can we all come together? How can we all be celebrated in this way? Because that's the point. I feel like we're now discovering it, but people were meant to communicate with music.
100%. It's the universe. It is the universal language.
Right. Exactly.
Well, my whole argument with music and why is you ever, the theory of gravity waves? You ever hear someone talk about gravity waves? Einstein had this theory of gravity waves. That gravity waves could be what measures everything in the known universe. They thought he was crazy, obviously, because he didn't have the technology. A few years ago, I don't remember quite the day, I don't remember the name of the physicist, but he took up those studies and he built machines, and they had the technology to read gravity waves, right?
Holy shit.
So what do? They find two black holes near each other, starting to face each other, right? And what's the other dimension? The other side of the black hole, right? Quote unquote dimension. So they were able to track as they got closer, and they pulled what was on the other side of a black hole out into our universe. And it could have been anything.
Whoa. So what you're saying... Sorry.
No, the two black holes, they sucked from each other.
Gotcha. Okay, so they're...
And what came out...
And, like, reversing, sort of.
Yeah, like, turning each other inside out, so the other side of the black hole came out. So we got to see for the first time in history, right?
Holy shit.
Gravity wave. It was a gravity wave. It was a wave that came out. And guess what it was? Of all things that could have come out of the quote-unquote other dimension... was a pitch. It was a sound, and it was the exact middle note C that the human race has basically based the entire music off of. And I'm like, how can you tell me that sound vibration, musical instruments, music itself is not more important to the actual existence of everything, right?
Holy shit. You're telling me that pitch came out.
The exact middle note
Oh,
C.
how beautiful. That's the most amazing. That just made my day.
So when you're playing that show, when like you talk about celebrating yourself, you're literally celebrating the existence of human beings, of us being together. I mean, that's what it is. It's not, and like you can make it spiritual. You can get deep, and we can sit here and talk. And I love talking about. I love that people take that, take that perspective on music, because it is that. It comes from that spiritual place. But its simplest, purest form is that we have to.
I
We're
love
meant
that.
to.
Exactly.
I'd love that. Yeah.
Completely detached from spirituality. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's reminding us what is versus what isn't. And that's what I love. And words, judgments, that takes the role of what isn't. And when you bring a community of people playing music, listening to music, whatever you want to call it, together in one room, that's what is. That is the simplest. How you said it beautifully, man. That's how it's supposed to be.
Well, another quote you had. Sorry, I've never quoted someone before, by the way. This is actually kind of like having quotes. This is pretty sick.
I love it, man. This is great.
I loved what you said, because it was like literally 2 lines, and the all was like, "There's so much in this." You said a pocket for people to put down their problems. And like, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, people can put things aside and they can be in that moment. But I like that you use the word pocket. Yeah. 1, because being in the pocket, right?
Right.
Stay in the pocket.
Hey.
But 2, because it very much is like these little pockets in our human existence, in our world, and like the conscious dimension, whatever you want to call it, this real everything. These little pockets at these live shows, when you're with other people and there's just music in the room, it's like this pocket outside of time, space, and everything we understand, because it feels so real. And I love the idea of, because I can totally see, like, if you like zoomed out on the planet and you saw all these venues of music, just little like purple
Little lights.
little purple things, like those are the pockets. I love that.
Yes.
It's such a, it's so simple. You would, so many people could read that and brush by it, but something about the way you had said it, or at least the way I read you saying it, really struck a chord with me. I was like, I fucking love that.
Oh, cheers. Well, because that's exactly what it is, man. It's little moments where we all get reminded of why we're here. We all get reminded how simple life can be,
Yeah.
and simple relationships can be, and simple communication can be, and how the layers and the lenses that we put up between each other, those are the problems, not people.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
love
lenses. So I think music removes them.
that. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. It's not the people; it's everything we put in front of us. I dug that. I dig that.
Hey, cheers.
So with this, I mean, obviously, it's your job as a musician, as a performer, to step on stage and get people there, right? It's your
Sure.
job. So there's a presentation factor. Now, when I've only seen you play once, on the stage at Sunsesh, I've seen you on, on the YouTubes and things like that, and Instagram. I've seen, like, you're obviously a very, very good performer. You perform at a top level. You know rule number one. Rule number one is you got to entertain.
Yeah,
That's
cheers.
rule number one. You got to entertain. That's your job. You have to do that.
Right.
So the presentation for you is it different for you on stage and then off stage? As a creative, as a musician, as a person, is the presentation different for you? Are you trying to amplify something on stage? Or are you trying to just bring the purest form of you? Or do you have an act that is necessary to get people to where you want them to go?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I think people would be surprised that I'm a lot quieter in person. That like it might. No. The initial answer to that is no. It's all the same.
Okay.
And I've fought so hard to get to this place where I feel comfortable enough where I don't question myself. And I think here I'm not going to claim that that's a permanent thing, but that's a state of mind that I prefer to be in versus not.
Okay.
And on stage, I think it's most apparent because I go, okay, well, people are here to see and be entertained, right? So I'm allowed to just be completely good to go. Like I'm fucking on. Like
Yeah.
let's do this. I'm excited. I'm energized. Energized is the perfect way to put it. Off stage, I think people will definitely see that. I think it's more because I'm talking and conversing where I sort of have a plan of what I'm going to say to introduce the next song and how I can kind of poke at the audience and have them poke back. And it's all about give and take and play and teasing. And that's what I love to do on stage.
Well, you have to seduce them into what you're presenting.
Right. You're flirting. You're flirting with the audience.
Absolutely.
How do you tease them? Like, come here,
Yeah.
Off stage, when I'm speaking with people, I love to take my time and I love to be, I'm honestly just I consider myself a quiet person. Now, I don't know if that really lines up too much with being a musician or artist, but that's just me. So
I think it does.
sure, cheers. I guess I know exactly what I'm going to say with the songs and the message through the songs, and I'm allowed to be completely shameless with that. But I love to, okay, getting back to the question. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. Do your thing.
There's no act. There's no me trying to put a layer on or be more or less than I am. It's just I've fought way too hard to be comfortable in my own skin to do anything else at this point.
So I think it sounds like you don't push yourself to do anything you're not.
Never. Oh my God.
But naturally you amplify.
Right. Naturally, that's a perfect way to put it. Yes. On stage, I will be way more aggressive and way more energetic because, I got a stage to have fun. Why not fucking own it?
You know what? For me, the most comfortable place I've ever been in my entire life is on stage.
Love it.
And when I started performing, and the point of this is when I started performing, I felt this entirely, quote unquote new person come out. And I was just like, I live for this. This is all never want to leave the stage. This is where I belong. And then I stepped off stage and it wasn't like that. And for a minute I thought, am I someone else on stage? I'm like, it's not that. I think the most purest real form of me just came out because on stage as an artist, as you know, you don't get to hesitate. There's nothing stopping you. You don't have time to stop and think about what you're doing. It is the truest, most natural form of you.
I love that.
So when you're not on stage and you're not that, it's like, well, I'm living my life with these, like you said, these screens. And what did the, you know, that you, it's, for me, it's about getting closer to who I am on that stage, because not as aggressive. Obviously, I'm obviously not talking to a crowd all the time, but it's that feeling inside, you know, when you're just like, there's no hesitation, like you're in it, you're doing it, you can't stop, you're teasing, you're flirting, you're talking, you're picking up on things, you're seeing these faces. There's so much naturally happening that when we step off stage, now we're thinking about all this stuff and trying to think about what we want to say, what we want to do. And it's just crazy to me. So that's why I was like, do you have like because I think a lot of artists have acts, which is fine, and maybe that's what they need to do. But I think if they broke that down a lot, that act would be a lot more about who they are than who they are off stage.
I from what you just said, I couldn't relate to anything more. That is so well put. Yes, exactly. I don't. Yeah, artists put on acts. That's great. They have. It's part of the story. You know.
Yeah.
I can't get on board with my own version of that.
I feel you.
Yeah, I love what you said about the lenses. They come on once you step off stage. That's exactly what it is. And maybe it's just a lack of presence off stage or unknowingness of what's going to happen, because if you spend enough time on stage, most of the time you're going to know what is going to happen. I don't know if I want to say that, but it's like there's only so much that can happen on stage.
Yeah.
And so when you're off stage, of course, that those the things that can possibly happen just skyrocket, and you overthink.
It's like infinite, right?
Right, infinite possibility. Well, who knows? Maybe I'm just speaking out of my own ass right now. Who knows?
Well, I think the other thing is too, being on stage, like, you know, when we're not on stage, when we're talking, we feel like immediately, without even consciously realizing, that we have to try to win this person over.
Right.
Like we have to get them to like respect us enough to listen to what we have to say, and then we can think about what we're going to say. But when you step on stage, it's like you've already won them over. You're on a stage and they're standing looking at you. They don't have to like you, but you've already won that initial look at me over.
Right. Oh, there's somebody here.
Who's here? Oh, Vic, I'm in the middle of recording. You have to go. Sorry about that, everybody.
No, all good. It's great.
Anyway, so you kind of like break that barrier of like you already have their attention. So now it's just, I have to prove myself. So there's not a lot to lose. There's only to gain, right?
Totally. And I think it's a matter of thinking versus not thinking. And you nailed it with that. That is the difference. When you're on stage, you almost allow yourself to just act. It's pure action. It's impulsive. It is exciting. And you're not really questioning anything.
Yeah.
And off stage, I think the character and the personality gets clouded sometimes with thought.
Which is fine. Like, it's part of being human.
Totally.
But like, that's why it's so great to perform,
Exactly.
right? That's why that experience is so, that's why it's so easy. Like, I'm sure you've been to a show where you've seen your favorite artist in a stadium. Like I've seen Metallica so many times.
Oh my God.
But I remember I was in yeah, right back. I got an M on my back too. I was in Ohio, and I was in like, it was like this soccer stadium. It was Rock on the Range, this big festival. And Metallica was playing, and I was like the farthest away. Farthest away. So many people. And James Hetfield steps up to the mic and like says something about, he's introducing a song called Moth into Flame, which is all about, being seduced by the fame and the riches. And he makes a comment. He's like, I've lived a lot of life. I've seen a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of great stuff. And at the end of the day, I can tell you, man, just have some good friends. You guys said it to so many people, right? And I was all the way in the back, and like, he obviously wasn't talking directly to me, but I never felt more personal in my entire life. But I'm surrounded by all these people, right? But I'm like, but he's on stage. But like, that's what that is. There's a barrier that we don't even realize is there that's immediately broken. And it was just such a personal experience. I was like, holy shit.
Oh, I love that, man. Wow.
So
I have some great friends. Yeah.
That blew my mind. I was like, damn, I was expecting something else.
Yeah. Oh, how beautifully exact that is. That's just one of the most easy truths there is. Just surround yourself with people you love, and vice versa.
It's hard to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the less we try, the easier it is.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Well, a lot of time, the wrong people can slip in. You don't even realize it,
Definitely.
We have to take responsibility for that, though. Especially as musicians, as artists, we're sensitive people.
Totally.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
So, as we were pouring ourselves a cup of coffee before, you mentioned something about art school. So you weren't always a musician.
I guess the label was teetering against another place, sure. Um, that being like, I just find myself as a designer versus musician, and
So what was like the process like growing up? Like your passion? Did you think like I'm gonna grow up and be a rock star, or you think I'm gonna grow up and like what was that dream that led into all this creativity?
so growing up, my dad was a drummer.
Like musicians,
Right.
Nice.
So that was just sort of how we connected and how I learned to connect with people. And I didn't realize it was where my heart was at until later on, but it was always crucial. It was always the center vein of everything that I did. And I knew that music was like something really special about it. And I was drawing a lot growing up. I loved sketching. I loved building things. Legos were my favorite toy. And my dad was an architect as well by trade. And seeing that world and seeing the world of I was going more towards the industrial design instead of architecture, which is like architecture but for products, for problem solving and that sort of stuff. But the entire time I was so in love with music, and I spent all my weekends playing guitar, and any spare hour that I had not doing homework, I was playing guitar and writing songs.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, ever since I can remember, man, it was always that. And it took me a while to finally turn to it and say, no, I'm taking you seriously now, music. Thank you. I realize now you are the centerpiece here. But I tricked myself into thinking it was something else for a little too long.
Wow.
But art school was perfect, exactly what I needed in that moment. And I'm so thankful I went to SCAD
Hell yeah.
in Georgia. That was, so important in my life. So important.
I love that. I like that. I like that you look at it that way. The whole idea of music. I now understand what you are and who you are. Like you have this place that you're demanding in my life, and I can't deny it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. I love, because that's totally how passion works. Passion isn't necessary. And I talked about this with a friend of mine a few episodes ago. He's a magician, actually. Very just incredible human being.
Sick.
But he once told me passion is physical, and I loved that, because
Whoa.
he's like, anything you're passionate about has a physical attribute to it. There's something that involves you doing, and he's like, you can't live without doing that. That's how you know it's your passion. You can't avoid doing that. He's like, if you can avoid doing that, you love it, but it's not necessarily like a passion. Like the passions are the things that you just can't avoid doing. And so when you talk about like how music, like, I now know who you are. It's like, you're like, all right, I can't fight you, Right. So I give props to you, because a lot of people can't just accept that.
It was the scariest decision of my life, for sure.
I don't doubt that. That's a huge decision. I'm glad you made it, though.
Hey, me too. No regrets, man. No regrets.
I'm very glad you made it, because one, you're incredibly talented. You have a beautiful voice. You're a good songwriter. You're a great performer. And my personal favorite, you're a damn good guitar player.
Hey.
Oh my God. I have been playing guitar for 20 years. All right. I started when I was 5 years old. Played till my fingers bled. I loved it. It's what I do. And as I grew older, and as I became a teenager, and as I became a young adult and all this stuff, I see more and more people performing, because I play a lot of acoustic gigs. They're not bad. They're not, they're playing music and they're sharing it. And I'm glad that people are out there doing it. But you can tell people just half-ass the skill part of it. They half-ass the hard work that you have to put in to be a good musician.
Sure.
And the people that don't half-ass it are working behind the scenes, not getting recognition, which is fine. There's a whole industry for that. It's frustrating to me. So when I saw you play, I'm like, holy shit, he can play. Like, this kid can play. Like, this guy not only writes songs, but like, he's throwing out some jazz chords. He's playing like these crazy scales. I'm like, he knows what he's doing. Like, I haven't seen someone, and he's writing music that, call it whatever genre you want. Like, people will listen and love this music. So it was very much redeeming. It was redemption.
Oh, cheers, man.
So I want to know, because you don't see that every day. What is like what's your drive to be a guitar player like that? Because most people that learn this to level that you play at don't go in the front man songwriter position, right?
Sure.
Like what was your like need to be a great guitar player? You just always learning.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, because that was that was the centerpiece of my therapy growing up. I played piano for years, and the relationship between finger and thing that was actually vibrating was disjointed, because you had a key that was then hitting the string. Like your And because of that, I just didn't feel like I could express myself the way that I wanted to. And then once I discovered guitar, man, it was because my mouth oftentimes gets ahead of my brain, and I used to be very quiet because of that. I was very what's it called? Nervous as a kid, right? And with guitar, my fingers never hesitated. My fingers knew exactly how they wanted to be told or how they wanted to speak, and because of that, I think I had this love for playing guitar that I loved playing guitar more than I liked speaking half the time. And I didn't even start singing till late in high school, and that was like it was always guitar playing. It was always curiosity driving this wheel. And the thing that actually got me started was a film called August Rush. I don't know if you're familiar.
Dude.
Right? With
Oh my God.
He puts the guitar on the ground and he's playing it like a drum. And I grew up as a drummer. My dad's a drummer, and that was the first instrument that I looked towards because he was doing it. And then, actually, funny enough, he took piano lessons to then get me to play piano. So,
there you go.
Yeah, he sort of incepted that one. Cheers to you, Dad.
Yeah, well done.
It was mom and dad. But yeah, I didn't know that people were capable of playing a guitar in a way that captured every aspect of my curiosity.
Wow.
Rhythmically, melodically, and personality that could be captured with a guitar. Like it's just endless.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is it's the dumbest instrument ever. It's 6 strings and a fucking neck. Like there's
Just hit it.
you just hit it. And what's so cool about that is that there's so many different people that speak so differently that everybody has a voice through it, which is beautiful. And I guess the thing that brought me to how I play now is simply curiosity of what can I do today that's different than what I've done yesterday. Like why this? Why that? How did this person say that?
Yeah.
A huge inspiration for that was John Mayer. Growing up, I saw Where the Light Is, that documentary. Changed my life. It was August Rush, then seeing Dominic Miller play with Sting and going, oh my God, this dude is the nastiest right hand of all time. And then going, oh my God, John Mayer's a human being. I didn't know I thought there were 5 guitars playing and it's just one.
Oh, he's so special.
The beginning of, I think the first song on that record is Neon, and he plays it acoustically. Yeah.
In a freaking like just stadium, just boom, boom on that freaking 6 string. I was just like, oh, that start to finish, that is probably one of the best shows ever played.
Hands down.
Just genius. So just spewing genius.
Spewing genius, man. Undoubtedly. And that was a huge thing. And then I discovered guys like B.B. King through him. I kind of traced. What's so cool about guitar players and what's so cool about musicians is you get hyped on somebody that is current. And then you trace their genealogy musically.
Oh,
and you
man.
go, okay, why does Herbie Hancock sound the way that he sounds? And then you go, oh, because of whoever,
boom,
right?
Boom, boom, yeah.
And then you go, I guess why does Corey Henry sound like Corey Henry? And then you go, oh, Herbie Hancock. Name whoever you want to.
Yeah,
I can do this
absolutely.
way better with guitar players.
You're fine. Yeah,
I don't know why I
it.
chose keys players. It doesn't make any sense, but
It's like the Stevie Ray Vaughan Hendrix thing, you know?
right. To Albert King, to
Yeah.
there's the lineage is so important. And when you get excited about one person, then you go backwards. You trace the steps. And that to me was so exciting because I loved so many things that John Mayer was doing. I loved so many things that what's his name? Derek Trucks was doing. That when you find out about guys like Dwayne Allman and guys like Dickie Betts and guys like Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan, there's only pure excitement for a kid to just go, oh my God, I can be loud. And my parents can allow me to be that loud. I can scream all day on a guitar. Hell yeah, let's fucking do it.
It's like no matter, I can get heavy. I can go crazy. I mean, I can feel everything. Yeah.
Exactly, man.
My guitar teacher once told me. He told me multiple times. He said the left hand is your brain, your knowledge. Your right hand is your soul.
Ooh.
He's like, because everyone can learn this amount of stuff, but not everyone can touch it the way you can.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And I think that's like, it's so true. And that's what I think that's getting lost a lot, because not a lot of people are willing to take this knowledge to the next level. And that's what I mean with you. Like you really, you know, your chords, you know, you know, the voicings, you know, all this stuff. And it really, as a singer, I do the same thing. Like as a singer, it changes your ability to take the song to the next level. Because all of a sudden this chord has a, you know, the top note on it matches the melody. You're writing a melody, and now singing becomes easy, right? Becomes the easiest part of this. But when you throw your standard open chords, there's only so much you can do to make it sound different. Right?
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but like when I saw it, I was like, see, that is why. Because this guy has so much knowledge. He's really studied the guitar, and he's applying it that his right hand can lose its freaking mind and just pour so much. There's so much more to be said. It's almost like learning a language, right? You learn 25% of a language, and then you get to become an adult, and you want to tell someone exactly how you feel, but you can't, because you only know 25% of this language. There's a whole 75% of it, all these other words that stand for all these feelings you're having that you haven't learned yet.
You're nailing it on the head, man. Exactly.
So I really, really appreciate the fact that you did. I was like, just such hope. But I mean, like, because curiosity is one thing, absolutely, but that shit isn't easy. Like learning those chords, those scales, the arpeggios, the chord changes, the key changes, how to, so like all this stuff, like there's obviously something that I don't know, for me, and it totally could be just curiosity, but for me, like as curious as I get, like that stuff is hard, and it's super easy to like, you know what, it's fine, I just don't want to do this right now, it's too much, it's taking away from the creative aspect. Like I feel like there's a threshold for every guitar player that they have to break through to be like, now this is what I'm embarking on. Did you have a moment where you're like, I'm a good guitar player, but I want to be better? Really hard. What drove you to break through that kind of like, this is the hard stuff?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I think what's great about guitar is that everything is scalable, which is not a play on words, I promise.
It's a good one, though.
Damn it.
I like that.
Yeah, if you learn one thing, it instantly applies to everything else. And what's cool about that is tracing fundamentals and getting back to, which I constantly do. I realize if I want to take a step forward, I have to make sure that every step before was correctly placed. And the ones that are before me the only way that I can take this next step is if think of it more like a chain, actually. I can't add another chain if the weight of it is going to break the rest or break one that's way, way earlier. So, for example, I was trying to learn this Stevie Ray Vaughan lick recently, and I realized that my picking wasn't on par with I didn't have the skill set to actually make the lick work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. So the fundamental needs to be worked on to then accomplish this. And then the moment I went back and did that, I was like, oh, well, this is easy. But so it's approaching things as if they are easy, but having the awareness of the steps that need to be taken. Because a lot of people see the mountaintop and they go, I want to get there, but they're not recognizing the individual footsteps that it takes to get there. And having a teacher, I think this is really important, because having a teacher that can tell you or be almost a navigational system for you for each step that you take, saying, oh, you can't take that step unless you go back and you go, because your right hand picking needs to be worked on.
Yeah, so absolutely.
That, like, once you work on the easy, like, it's so little baby steps. Like, if you get that fundamental picking strategy together, then apply it to this new lick, the lick is there. It was always there.
Yeah.
You just needed to unlock it, approach
absolutely.
it like a video game, right?
No, I think that's probably one of the best approaches I've ever heard. And because it sounds so simple when you say it, but how often do people really think about that? Especially having a teacher. I like that you said it's a navigation, because because hiring a teacher doesn't automatically make you better. Teachers can be like, this is what you need to be taught, but you got to sit there and you got to learn it. You got to sit there and practice it. Like, alternate picking. You remember those days when you were like, dun 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 dun, click, 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 click. Like, you had fucking nightmares.
Oh my god.
I mean, for days and hours, just dun 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 until you're really fast. And then I see these guys that shred, like they're tapping and like sweeping and all this crazy. I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can play really fast, but I can't do that. And I remember like that not too long ago, a few months ago, I sat down to learn this like crazy like. It was like this neoclassical lick, just shredding. I really like this lick.
Sick. Yeah.
Couldn't learn it. Couldn't do it. I tried and I tried no matter how much I practiced, I couldn't do it.
Really?
And very much what you're talking about, I was like, it wasn't that I couldn't do it, is that I didn't learn how to do this one movement, this one thing with the pick. I couldn't pick in between the strings properly. I didn't learn that technique well enough. And once I figured that, like once I sat down and did that, it's very much what you said. I was like, oh, this stuff's not actually hard. You just have, like you said, the fundamentals. So, but but I think you're right. Like as a guitar player, you all of a sudden get good enough to impress people, but then you have to forget that. What is the next level of guitar playing? I have to dumb myself down with my ego. And then I have to say,
Oh my God.
what do I need to learn to be able to do this? Because what impresses people is like not that much.
True. Oh my God. Well, I think I watched this video that John DeVersa put out talking about skill set versus soul and how, it's soul and intention and then skill set.
Well, I like that intention.
Because intention is everything. It's like, what are you trying to communicate? How are you supposed to make this feel right? And the reason why he was talking about two ladders that are mutually exclusive and always climbing at the same time, but you can't. It's like when you go with your right hand's on the right ladder and your left hand's on the left ladder. Only one can move at a time. And both, because they're mutually exclusive, they rely on each other, sure.
Wow.
But when your soul and when your intention reaches a point where it supersedes the skill set, you have to go back to the skill set to then eventually supersede, or I don't know if that's the correct word, but
for sure.
to surpass. Boom, that's the word. To surpass the soul. And then when you get too technical, then soul needs to be worked on. And so it's this constant ebb and flow, left and right and left and right. And
I'm going to sell this little segment
hey,
as a guitar
copyright,
lesson.
Yeah, copyright John DeVersa.
That's literally the greatest thing I've heard for guitar playing.
It's beautiful for any instrument. That's any instrument, any approach, musically, and I think for any, honestly, sketching, drawing, that's the same thing. It's skill set, then it's in soul and intention, and skill set, soul and intention. And for anybody who's learning guitar or learning anything out there musically, keep that little teetering thing on your mind, because if you're struggling with something, anything, that's probably the issue. Is you haven't jumped between left or right. And that's totally fine. You can't beat yourself up for that, because it's just the awareness of where you need to work.
Wow. You're blowing my mind right now.
John DeVersa, dude, that's not me.
Absolutely love that. That is
hell yeah.
That is so important. That is so incredible.
Crucial.
Now, with that being said, the skill and the soul, do you think your level of skill has led to the style of music that you play?
Oh, that's a great question. I think my curiosity. So, okay. The reason why I always fall back to curiosity is because that is my navigational tool. I love asking what if on the guitar. I love asking
the what if factor. That's literally where my music comes from, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, this is great. There was one thing that, do you know, oh God, what is his name? I love Instagram because it leads, okay, it gets me incredibly excited and then incredibly self-conscious at the same time with guitar playing, because
it's the greatest platform to discover guitar playing.
Exactly.
That's why I like Instagram. It's the only reason I like Instagram.
Amen. And I'm like, oh my God, this person's so good. And if I'm in a sort of a lousy mindset, I'm like, fuck, man. And then if I'm in a great mindset, I'm like, yo, I want to jump in. I want to learn this. And one of those guys that gets me every time. I'm obsessed with watching his videos. Shit, I'm gonna find him.
Sasato?
Mateus is okay. No, he's a genius.
Okay.
There's a guy who I think is just pure genius. His name is escaping me. It'll come to me later. But he was doing this sliding thing on the B string, that it was the B string and the D string that he slid and then did a half step above on the E string. But it just led to this stretching feeling of a chord. And if I actually, can I grab a guitar and show you what I mean?
Yeah, grab a guitar. I got like 40 of them.
Yeah.
That one of them has a broken string, so.
This guy looks like fun.
That's my performing artist series.
That is beautiful. Holy shit. All right, so
this is wonderful. I get to, you know what? I want to take a picture of that.
So, oh God, what is his name, dude?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Anyway, he goes like this.
Okay.
It's like this beautiful stretching feeling that extends the chord. So,
Oh yeah, very much like Mateus Sato, that new style where like that kind of like that quick half step slide, like you play the chord and you take like one of them, vroom, you know that, yeah, that right there.
Right, like the.
It blends everything together, right? It's almost like there was never a chord change. It's so fluid.
It's fluid. It's
incredible.
I'm obsessed with that.
I'm so glad you picked up the guitar. I'll have to do another one where you just play guitar.
Next time, man. Next time. But yeah, that was such a. I had no idea how to do that, and he did these sort of lessons for a little bit that I got. I didn't dive into other ones, which I wish I. You know what? Now that I say that, I'm gonna go do that when I get home. But that little detail led to so many other discoveries on the guitar that I said, well, what if I used the same principle of this movement, but placed it in a completely different place on the neck, on a different string, on a different formation, like using, instead of being stacked on top of each other on the same fret, why not displace on different frets and then do a similar slide with a half step.
Just the technique itself and put it everywhere else, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. You learn one thing and all of a sudden it opens up an entire world of possibility elsewhere.
Yeah.
But a lot of people stick to that one thing and say it's supposed to stay here. And
well, it's like the Eddie Van Halen, the Eruption, right? That was what tapping was.
Right.
Well, look where tapping has gone. Just by that same exact concept, now we have like all these fucking, like all four fingers tapping at the same time around.
Wild stuff.
You know, and it's very true. Like, you know, Paul Gilbert is very famous for that. You know, super up, boo. He like bends really high and then he just slightly taps it.
Ugh.
Like that wasn't around all the time.
Exactly.
Like this, I mean, just simple concepts that totally change everything, especially as a songwriter. You know, you find that one thing and it's like one song could be written one way and you learn one new technique and then it's an entirely new song.
Oh my God, yeah.
I love that.
And some songs I've realized like some songs you kind of have to leave at a distance because you go, there's a skill set that's waiting for you.
Oh,
there's
I
something
love that.
that has to, like, or I haven't lived a part of my life yet to write this song. There are 3 songs that I'm sitting on going, I don't have the correct, because the song feels a certain way and I haven't felt that way exactly yet. And I know that once I do, or like once something stupid happens or I make whatever mistake, right?
Yeah.
That will lend itself perfectly to those circumstances.
Oh, dude.
And that's, I mean, a perfect segue to songwriting. Like, that is crucial. And actually, that little melody line, just learning that has led to so many songs themselves, which is fucking wild to me, man.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible.
Everything weaves within itself.
Well, it's so cool because like we expect inspiration to come outward, right? You know, everything's outside, but sometimes learning one tiny thing, it's not even the fact that it's someone else's song or riff. It's the technique, right? Learn one other thing, and it's like, oh, now I have this in my arsenal. Let's see if I blend this with everything else, and it's just like overflowing with this new stuff. It's the best feeling. I mean, I remember growing up as a little kid where like everything was new, where it's like alternate picking was a new thing. I remember the first time, I will never forget this, the first time I ever heard the major 7 arpeggio.
Oof.
My guitar teacher played it, and I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yes.
I was like, I don't care what we're doing. You're going to teach that to me right now.
Yes.
So he taught me pattern 4. The first, you know, the only one pattern. I did that for weeks. That's all I did.
Oh my God, I love it.
Up and down. I couldn't get enough of that sound. I was like, what the hell is this? And then he's like, go listen to Danny Elfman. Well, what does Danny Elfman use all day? The major 7 arpeggio.
The wanted,
like,
oh
God.
yeah.
I mean, and everything. It was just, and I just became obsessed. And like, I remember those feelings, and not that you can't have those anymore, but like very much what you're talking about. Like you have to go search for that now. Like you get to a certain level, it's like very much like, oh, this is what's impressive, this is learning. Now you get to a level where you have to search for those things because there's not a curriculum of what's going to make you better. It's a totally open world. It's a musical instrument. It's completely infinite. What's your next step?
Exactly. And that's why curiosity drives it.
Yeah, you have to have it.
Exactly, because you're going, well, it's curiosity for the search for that feeling. It's actually, sorry, that's the reverse of what I think I'm trying to say. It's that feeling is a result of chasing curiosity, because once you discover something new and leaving that box completely wide open, you're going, oh, there's that feeling again. Now I feel invigorated. Now I feel saturated. Now songs pop out.
Well, it's crazy because it's even like this physical craving. Like you don't want to do anything. You want to stay home all day and you just want to play that one thing like over and over because it just feels so right.
Exactly.
It's I mean, for lack of a better term, not that there is a better term, it's orgasmic.
Yeah, no, it really
is.
is. So actually, let me ask you this: when you pick up a guitar, is there one thing that, like, no matter what, if you pick up your guitar, that's the first thing that comes out?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's a handful of things that I immediately gravitate to, and this I've actually been asked before. There's a handful of things that I gravitate to based on my mood, and it's not necessarily like the song or the sound. It's the feeling, the shape, right? So like there's shapes of chords of the guitar. Like if I'm finger picking, like something about holding and getting my physical body. Like I pick it up and I grab, depending on how I'm feeling, and then once I've grabbed the guitar in that shape, I move from there. Kind of. It's not intentional, but it just naturally happens. Like
So
there's
the
like
relationship between hand and instrument governs
what
that
I
choice.
yeah, it's like,
Well
how
done,
I'm
cool.
feeling, what's going on. I pick it up, and all of a sudden, I just immediately gravitate towards like whatever it's this chord or that chord, or maybe I just want to like run scales or whatever it is. Just it's like this immediate touch,
Love
and
that.
I know where my body is, and then my
Yeah,
mind
yeah.
and soul have to keep up,
Hell yeah.
But
Okay.
but yeah, I don't think anything specifically that I gravitate towards every time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, definitely. You know the Maroon 5 song "Secret" from Songs About Jane? The dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 that like I think it's an A minor, that A minor walk down.
Mm-hmm.
That's very much that walk down, not from that song, but that song. A lot of songs use that. Let's be real. But that kind of like groove walk down is very much one of those things for me too.
Love
Just
that.
like,
Yeah.
because it's like I don't know what way I'm gonna go, and that's that middle ground of like if I groove, I can either get heavy or I can get dark. Get sad, get happy. Grooving is like the core of like, for me as a guitar player, picking up a guitar, groove is the core. Start at the groove, and then you'll know where you want to go.
I love that you say that too, because that's also the biggest learning curve that you can have is grooving with other people. If you want to learn how to play an instrument, go play with other people. Like get your basics down, of course, but
Sit in.
the classroom is live. The classroom is live.
Oof,
Do it.
I love that.
You can only
Jamming.
learn so much by yourself. And one of my friends, he and I, we were hanging out the other week, and it was like 4 a.m. We were having such a good time, everybody laughing. And he turns to me, and goes, man, I was thinking about this recently, and friends take you places that you can't go by yourself. And the same thing can be said about a community of musicians in a band. Like that will take you places that you cannot go by yourself. Playing with other people, the community, the group will take you places that you cannot go by yourself.
I love that. Wow.
Beautiful stuff, man.
That's a good perspective to keep too. Every time you like feel hesitant or nervous, because I mean, there's a lot of nerves that go into this. People think stepping on stage is the hardest part, like with nerves. It's totally not. That's the easiest part, in my opinion.
Amen.
Nerves are like talking to the other musicians, deciding whose opinion matters most, like sharing your opinion. Like, am I gonna mess something up? So I think reminding yourself of that, like you're gonna go somewhere where you couldn't go without. By yourself. I love that. I think that's like a fucking right on top of your bed, put up a sign so you see that every morning,
Yeah.
Good way to determine friends, fellow musicians, all that. I love that.
Yeah, it keeps the heart open, man. That's the point right there.
So let me ask you something. With all your talent, all the songs, I mean, you hit everything on the head, the nail on the head, on all the categories. If I was a record producer, if I was like a manager, like I'd see you as like, this kid is a gold mine. Not just money, not monetary purposes only, but like everything, and like I could stand by this, and I would stand by this. Have you been approached by labels? And if not, what is your opinion? Like, would you go down that route? Because I feel like you're at a level where like, yeah, you could be the next, artist that they want to pour everything into.
Right. Well, hey, thank you, man. First off, that was really sweet. Right now, I am. It's funny. The whole LA thing has happened many times, where people come up to you and they go, "Oh my God, I want you to meet whoever, and I know this person," and a lot of it has just turned into feeling like empty words.
Yeah.
And my mentality has always been actually similar to what you were talking about. It's like, fuck waiting, fuck dealing with other people. I mean, okay, so to a certain extent, like when it comes down to your own, because I've set up 5 tours by myself and toured the country and played hundreds and hundreds and booked hundreds and hundreds of shows for myself.
I want to walk through that after this, by the way.
Absolutely.
I want to know.
And what's wild about that, man, is when you realize how much you're capable of, bringing other people on. Again, it comes down to other people will bring you places that you cannot go by yourself, and recognizing what I wanted to do by myself. There's like, I love doing a lot of shit, and realizing that people come when when you don't want to do. Okay, getting back to the question here,
You're
because
good. Do
this
your
is
thing. I like this.
recognizing when you don't want to do stuff is really important, and realizing that other people who want to do that stuff for you and with you as part of the team, that's when they start coming in. Once you've done
Once you've done your part,
right?
but you have to do your part, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So recognizing the point at which you start building your team is really important. And for me, I've been approached by so many fucking people, but it wasn't time, and it didn't pan out, and it didn't feel right. That's the most important thing. It didn't feel right. And recently, actually about a year ago, almost exactly now, one of those circumstances happened where it's like, hi, I know this person, or actually it was even better. I played a house show, and after playing a 3-hour gig, it was like this heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching cover gig for 3 hours. I was driving an hour and 15 minutes to get to this house show. I was stressed out. I was like, fuck this. I've been playing, like, I just need a release of playing my own music, and I'm going to be late to this show, so I'm not going to get a chance to play my own shit. And I call this dude. I'm like, yo, man, I'm so sorry. It's a drive that's like way too long for me. And he's like, oh my God, man, I got a drink waiting for you. I got a fucking, it was in K-Town too. So gig in Thousand Oaks, house show in K-Town.
No.
Yeah. Like,
where'd you play in Thousand Oaks?
It was a restaurant cover gig. I honestly don't even remember, because that was the insignificant part of the night. But I ended up getting out
curious.
to this. No, sure. It was like heart-wrenching though. I completely detached myself from that.
Now you're driving down to K-Town, which is a mess of a drive.
And a mess of a parking job at the same time too.
Oh my God.
So he goes, he answered my 2 questions and my 2 worries. He goes, Nico, take your time. Don't stress about coming here, because the first band hasn't even got on yet. You're going to be in the middle of the 2 bands. I wanted to squash you between them. And I got a parking spot waiting for you. I put a cone out, dude. Like, don't even worry about it. This is zero stress.
Godsend right there.
So I'm like, oh my God, thank the Lord. I am close to tears at this fucking point. And I finally make it to the place. He gives me a beer. We cut it up because we hadn't even met at that point. And he's just the man. And we're having such a good time. Another friend of mine shows up, and I'm just having like the best time. And then I get on stage and I fucking put everything. Ooh, man, it was one of my favorite shows. Everything into it. And right after this show, this girl the sweetest girl comes up to me. She goes, "Who the fuck are you? Are you signed?" And I'm like, I will never forget those 2 questions, because I'm going, sorry, I don't even know your name, and you're swearing at me.
Who are you?
What's going on? Yeah, and she goes, I'm sorry, I'm Danny, whatever. Ends up being one of the sweetest girls and says, I want you to meet my boss. I want you to meet this guy I work for. And I'm going, okay, cool. This is another person saying they want me to meet whoever. I wake up the next morning to an email at 7:30 a.m. Meanwhile, it was like a show on Saturday night. This girl's sending me an email at 7:30 on a Sunday morning, which is the day that you're supposed to sleep in and not get out of bed till whenever.
I already like it.
And I'm going, whoa, this feels different. And she was a sweetheart. Meanwhile, like, everything about this group of people was on fire. I was so in love with that moment. And it turns into this this thing where I am walking into Rob Cavallo's house the next day, Monday morning, and Rob has since become a dear friend, mentor, and part of the team, and has really, as well as producer. And so he and I are putting a record together right now, slowly but surely. And it's been such an adventure over this past year of getting to know the community of his friends and his family and Danny, and I couldn't be more at ease with the circumstance that I'm in, just because it started with such a genuine place, and it feels so good to be in that room.
So did you sign anything with these people, or is it just like, hey, let's all build something together, or in between? I'm kind of curious, because I like that. I think what you're talking about, this experience that you had, that you love this, you love that moment, you love these people, like, regardless of what comes after that, that's the core of it. Whether you're independent, whether you sign, whether like that, right. I love that you had that experience.
It was a beautiful, beautiful place, because it was honest and it was real and it was effortless. And I had just gotten off tour. A whole bunch of family stuff had happened, and I was in a very like
Chaotic.
sort of all or nothing mindset of like, fuck it, you know,
Yeah.
this is
Okay.
I'm gonna give everything, and whatever happens happens. I'm
Wow.
here to just ride. And I for those who don't know, Rob Cavallo is one of the most unbelievable record producers and just gems of the industry, and he is so he's a beautiful translator from artist to record, and his capability to do that is in my eyes, I mean, I don't he's genius. He's an absolute genius.
I love the way you put that.
And he's a translator. I think that's the best way to
I think that's so.
to
That's
say it.
incredible. I've never heard that. I like that.
Yeah, man, I've spent enough time with him, and like, yeah.
So you've held out because you felt that it wasn't right, and then when something when
Exactly.
it felt right, you knew.
Exactly.
Now, what my question is with that, because that's not easy to do. I mean, I don't know what your experiences were, and I can't imagine it was hard. It was easy for you to like give up things that seemed like really big opportunities, but they didn't feel right, and you trusted your gut. Now, to trust your
Right.
gut at that level, to possibly be giving up huge opportunities, or huge opportunity, put quotes on that, because
Right.
everybody's got a huge opportunity for you.
Exactly.
You really have to stand by what you do. You really have to believe in your music. You really have to believe in your capability, your performance, everything from the ground up. And
Exactly.
I think that shows the most, and that is unstoppable. A lot of people, a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, a lot of anybody have trouble doing that. Do you have like a mantra? Do you have things that you walk yourself through, things you tell yourself every day that allow you to stand by your stuff?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful question, man. So I started meditating a lot last year. And that, I think, actually what led to this opportunity was a result of my meditation practice. I don't want to be like that spiritual guy who's like, I started meditating and like everything fell into place.
You spend too much time in LA. The world
Right.
meditates. Meditation is a real thing.
It is.
LA has made it very
taboo almost.
Yeah. I meditate every day, so go for it.
I love that. And I think what's interesting about meditation is when you calm, it's never about controlling. It's never about it's more about letting go than controlling anything in your life. And when I meditate, because I do it every morning and every night, and until I find that place where things become a little quieter, and the more I focus on where I'm going to go or where I want to go, the more stressful I get or stressed out I get. And I think the most important thing to tell yourself when you wake up or during the day, to like really stand true to what you're doing and who you are. Yeah, it's always been about, Nico, you are enough. Like you are only capable of what you're capable of, and love it. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason to the more you try to define yourself, the more frustrated you're going to get. Because
I love that.
when you fall short from your expectations, that's when you blame yourself, and that's when you get frustrated, and that's when you judge, and that's when you like just the whole fucking tornado starts spinning in your head, and you can't escape that. So that's, I try not to promise myself anything that I can't keep, and the personal relationship has always focused on that allowance. It's all about allowance. It's like saying, you know, today I am going to allow myself to be myself completely. I'm gonna if I am myself, then everything that is for me will fall into place. I will not judge myself. I don't want to judge myself. Why would I do that? Why would I put myself in a box? And the less I try to define myself, I think the more success comes that way. In relationships, in not success in like
no,
musical
yeah,
or
absolutely,
whatever.
I understand for
But
sure.
Just like joy is way closer and way at hand, and it's always through action. The more I think, actually that's the best way to put it. The more I think, the more frustrated I am.
Yeah.
So leaving
Action versus anxiety, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Always act. Go do something. Clean your bedroom. Like wake up and clean. Like that's my. I always tell myself that. Like go fucking clean your bedroom. Or
Yeah.
or go draw something, or go write, or go play guitar without any agenda. But it's through unhindered action. Actually, what's a better way to put it? I think I wrote it down to this morning. It was stagnant circular thought is the problem, and blind action, or not blind action, but silent action is the cure.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's really cool too, because it's like your ability to be confident in yourself is not coming from the fact that you convince yourself that you're good enough, that you talk. You just you live your life, and because you've become so accustomed to taking action, when things do come around that like the big opportunity, or things do come around that may affect you, you feel it immediately, and not to go with that, no matter what level. And I think that's incredible.
Exactly. Well, cheers. Yeah, that's a mentality that because it's about going, this is what I'm gonna this is what I'm going to do. This is my action, and I'm gonna still hold true to that, regardless of result, because result doesn't matter. It's do I want to do this? Great, do it. It's whether or not you deserve it. That's a huge thing in my brain. Doesn't matter. Does not matter.
Can't hold on to that.
Exactly. That's a huge no.
There's no good outcome to that question.
Exactly.
Ever.
And dislocating yourself from expectation. Yeah, it's so funny how the more you let go with the more you let go from the things that you want is the moment that they show up on your doorstep. Wow. And that's true with
it's because you have that moment you say you want something, you have an expectation, right?
And that's when you define it as something that you don't have. So that's a huge issue.
Ooh,
and
I
so
like that.
If you say, I am already this, I am this, I'm already touring the country, I'm already playing shows for hundreds of people, and hopefully that turns into thousands. Hopefully that builds, but I'm happy with where I am right now. And I'm interested in growing, of course, but I don't need it to grow. It's just about centering with this moment right now.
Wow.
And being grateful for what you have, and putting out feelers, of course, of what you would like, and and envisioning where you see yourself and where you want to be. But that that's what it is. It's gratefulness for what you have. And the moment that you focus on that is the moment that you dislocate from what you don't have. And people, like, stress comes from what you don't have. Stress comes from what you aren't. And
stress is being here but wanting to be there. Yeah.
Exactly. And recognizing that right now, right here is perfect. Like, this is perfect. You do not need anything more than what you have right in this moment. Unless you need a glass of water, so get a glass of water. But, like, that's
a bottle there if you need it.
Oh, hey, there you go. Bang. I didn't even notice that. Thank you.
You're good. I dig that, though. I like that. It's like the moment you lose that center, the first thing you jump to is pointing out the things you don't have
and who you aren't. That's a huge thing.
Which means nothing because it's not existent, right? Like, you don't have it. You are not that. So why does it matter?
But people focus so much on that.
Yeah, and that's such a great. I love that that visual on it. That's incredible. That's got me in, like, this state of just like, damn, the hell am I doing?
Well, because then you realize you blame yourself. You realize you judge yourself, and then that doesn't feel good. And so I say that not in you, but I mean, like, in general, like, I do that all the time.
Everyone does that, yeah.
Totally. I'm not saying I'm separate or what's it called?
Yeah, but owning up to it and taking that, the action being taken is an action to fix something that, not even fix, maybe that's not the right term, but to rewire something in you,
Exactly.
To unlearn a habit that is forcing you down a bad path for you to say, because look, you are touring the country. You are playing shows in front of hundreds of people. You are a phenomenal guitar player. You are a good songwriter. You are a good, you're all these things. And it's like, if you took that and amplified it, you'd still say you're all these things. Those wouldn't change,
Right.
So it's about finding those consistents, those things that I am this, I'm happy with this. And if that's something that's not going to change, no matter how much monetary value comes your way, no matter how much audience comes your way, no matter how much anything comes your way, then that's a real thing. That's true.
Exactly. And it has to be separate from scalable objects.
Yeah.
Money being the primary one. Even like guitar play, even like, because Yeah, it's about, because I try to separate myself from what I do as much as possible at the same time. When I meditate, it's like even going back to, like, I have lungs, I can breathe right now. That's pretty dope. And being thankful for that. If you center on being just alive, I think that
Well, you
brings
have to
it,
start like if you can. It's almost like a movement.
Right.
Train your mind to be grateful for something. Even it's like I used to do this meditation. It wasn't even meditation. I'd wake up every morning. I'd walk outside, and I'd find at least 30 things to say I love you to. And I'd always start with the sun. I'd look at the sun and be like, sun, I love you.
Oh, I love
You're
that.
beautiful and I love you.
Yeah.
And it sounds super cliche and super LA and super cheesy, but what it did was it trained my brain first thing in the morning to do the act of love.
And
to give
gratefulness,
that love.
dude. That is one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever heard. That is fucking awesome. I'm gonna do that.
I'm sad that I don't do it as much anymore, but the days that I do, it literally, you live differently. You truly live differently. You live like the king that you think you want to be.
Oh, exactly.
Like,
that you are.
Yeah.
That you are, man. That's,
Yeah, it's really so I really what you're getting at. I think that's so I think people will see how much more quote unquote successful they are if they pay attention to those things.
Exactly. And they
Like
center themselves around the things that are versus aren't.
So I don't mean to change the subject here,
Please
but
jump.
before we go, I really sorry, I'm choking here.
You're all good.
I really want to get your insight on your approach to the touring, because you are by yourself. You are independent. You're booking your own shows. How the hell do you go about booking a tour across the country,
So
or even across a state?
right, yeah. So I always say start. It's really fun to dream about doing something big like a countrywide tour, and trying to start there is just like trying to learn a Stevie Ray Vaughan lick when you can't do a C chord, right? And so again, the skill set is always scalable. I think the first step for me was recognizing where I could play and where I couldn't, and that was different from where I wanted to play, of course. Because you're going,
Yeah,
I
I
want to
feel
book Red Rocks, and it's like, oh well, I can pull 10 people out in Colorado right now, so that's not gonna work. But yeah, the biggest thing for me was the first tour I did was along the East Coast with a friend Avery, and he and I played open mics down the East Coast.
Hell yeah!
And we just said, we know these are happening. We know that there are crowds there. There's no necessity for us to get people there. There's just pure
Show up.
we just show up and we play. Simple. Super, super simple. That was like the baseline. Literally anybody can do that if you have a car and gas money.
Yeah.
And a place to stay. I mean, like, get a place to stay, of course. And then after doing that, we discovered I went on tour with Victoria Canal. That was 10 shows on the East Coast. And then the next summer, I booked from as far south as Savannah, Georgia, to as far north as like Boston and Rhode Island.
So did you just call these venues? Did you email
Yeah.
them? Did you say, hey, I'm coming through with these dates. Are you available?
Oh, that's a great question. So the means by which I connected with them, I had a few connects through that tour that I did with Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized there was a blog called Ari's Take. Ari Herstand is a dear friend now, and I was using his touring blog forever beforehand. Then we finally met, and that was a whole nother story. But he showed me. I should actually preface that blog showed me how to put together a good EPK, and put together the things that were necessary to get a general understanding of what you're going to be on stage. Because that's all venues are looking for. They're looking for, one, are you going to bring money our way? That's, of course, primary. And then two, are you decent? Like, are you a good show? Like, can you actually play? Can you sing? Can you perform?
Well, see, there's a difference because venues care about that. Promoters don't.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, promoters are the side of, like, numbers through the door, people
Like,
through the door.
If you scream into a microphone for 30 minutes, I don't give a shit as long as you bring people.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. So it's convincing them that, one, you're going to be good, and then two, well, one, you're going to bring people, two, you're going to be decent. Now, there are two circumstances that govern whether or not you're getting the gig. So if you're dope and they want to see you on their stage, they will book you. Whether or not you bring people, if there's a band that you connect with online that's going to bring people, and you're really dope and you can convince people of that, they'll book you. If you can bring people and you're having trouble convincing people that you're dope, they will book you as well. But it's better to focus, like, you shouldn't be touring unless you're dope. Or that unless you're really okay, that's
you know what? I totally agree with that. If you step on stage, you make a very serious statement and you say my stuff, like, I'm like, everyone in here, including me, is worthy of listening to this. Like, this is worthy of being listened to. Right. I know it sounds really harsh, but I think, I'm a hard ass when it comes to the stage.
Amen. And I think don't I don't want to discourage people from doing. I don't want to like make it sound snobby. I don't want to make it sound anything other than what it is. It's really important to be honest with yourself and exactly where you are musically. And I started touring, I think, before I should have. I didn't have enough music out. I didn't have enough stage experience, but I did it anyway. And hell, if you want to go do that, fuck yeah, like, go do it.
That's the fastest way to learn is to step on stage, right?
Exactly.
But there's platforms for that.
There are that's what I was about to get to, is you can get on stage in your town. There's always an open mic. There's always a bar you can get up and play and get your hours in. Yeah. Because the more you do that, the more people are going to react and the more people are going to engage. And the more time you can spend on stage capturing an audience and learning how the relationship goes between performer and audience member, the more you can understand that, the better. Because if you're putting on a great show in your hometown, then that will create its own buzz. That will create its own thing. And then other bands will want to, it's all about, again, comes back to the community of it all. Like, other bands are going to go, oh, this person's doing really well there. Well, why not, if we come open up for them there, then they can come open up for us here. And then you start building these relationships between musicians. And then that translates instantaneously to relationships between musician and venue. And then knowing how to present yourself is really important, of course, because then read Ari's take. That'll step you through it or walk you through it. But don't, like, you don't have to tour unless you like should. I don't know if that makes sense, but
well, I think it all comes down to what you had said earlier, like, be honest with yourself. Like, right. Like, you don't have to be ready to tour. You don't have to be ready to be the best performer. You don't have to be ready to, like, but know where you are.
Right. And know what you're capable
be there.
Of.
And start there. It's very much like you said, like, you can't play the Stevie Ray Vaughan lick if you can't even play the C chord.
Right.
You know, the stage is a different animal. Like, you need to learn your instrument. You know, learn what writing a song is. Write those songs. You know, go get a vibe. If you want to perform, go play for your family. Go play for some friends. Go to that local bar. Go to an open mic night where you get one song and try a song out. Look at who responds. Like, it's like research, you know?
It is.
Do your research.
Market research.
Yeah.
That is it right there.
Know who you are, know where you are, know what's going on, and then when it's time, like, that way, like, because like, if you just go book a tour, like, and you have no idea what your sound is or what you're getting at, you could book all the wrong venues with the wrong audiences.
Exactly.
And then you could hate your life and never do music again, when all it was, you just missed your target audience.
And that's a huge thing too, man. Like, oh my gosh, yeah. Going back to even just going to I think start with open mic nights. Yeah. Start with places that are really forgiving, where you can fuck up and spend 5 minutes on stage and, you know, take 4 minutes out of those 5 minutes and completely bomb.
I did not start with those places. I will tell you all, there's not a lot of feelings lower than bombing in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's the fastest way to learn. Like, if you can take it, go do it. Choose the hardest venue, go fucking bomb. I have been there so many times. It worked for me, but there's no reason. You can go to open mic nights. They're available now.
and there's nothing worse than somebody getting on stage and not knowing how to be there. Because then it's just uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah, the audience, you're just like, what do I do?
And so the point is, you have to go through that. You have to bomb. It is required.
Absolutely.
You're never going to get on stage for 30 minutes without having done a 10-minute set, without having done a 15-minute set, without having done a 5-minute or 2-minute set, or even a fucking song. Like, that is crucial stuff. So once you can have control, and not control, but once you can flow with an audience for 30 minutes, then consider going out of your hometown. Yeah. Then consider going out and you know, moving to a city that has a music scene. That's a great way to start. Like, I started at open mics and now I'm touring wherever the hell. But know that it's one step at a time. It's one song at a time, really.
One technique at a time, right?
One technique at a time. It's all the same shit.
I fucking love this, man. This is so much valuable information.
Me too, man. Thank you for having me. This is such a blessing, man.
Nico Franc, everyone. I mean, dude, I cannot wait for your album. I
Hey,
can't wait for the
cheers.
music to come out so I can just put you on and be like, this guy
Oh.
is what music needs to be at.
Thank you,
I
man.
stand by that. Anybody, make sure you guys go check him out. This guy is, put him as the standard. Like, you need to be able to play like this.
Oh shit! Oh my god!
Every time I see you play, I'm like, fuck, I got to get better, man. I've been playing for 20
Oh,
years. What the fuck have I
Jesus.
been doing? You know?
Well, thank you, man. You're a fucking genius guitar player, so that means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And any last words? Anything you want to say before we bounce out of here?
Don't forget to breathe, people.
Breathe.
Yeah, enjoy yourselves.
Rock and roll, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.